Hello and welcome to a Magic the Gathering online video series, this time on Mono Red in Standard. This is a very standard version of the deck, although it has some intriguing points, which I'll get to in a moment. We have the usual suite of 8 2-power 1-drops. We have 4 Mutavaults alongside the awkward 2 red spells in Burning Tree Emissary and Ash Zealot. And with Burning Tree Emissary, we need a critical mass of 2 mana spells, which in this case we have Young Pyromancer, Fire Fist Striker, Lightning Strike. We also have 23 lands, which is notable here because it allows us to curve up into Stormbreath Dragon and have hopes of casting Rubblewelt Maka as a 3/3. Hill Giant still is a thing. It's not a very good thing, but at times it is just what you need. It's not great, but there it is. And we also have Chandra's Phoenix, which has become a staple of red decks in the current format. It is deceptively efficient because it flies, and haste is very relevant. This deck is not going to return them very often, with only 4 Lightning Strikes in the main deck, although you only really need to return it once. That's what I'm finding, that if you're hoping to be casting Lightning Strikes and casting Searing Bloods and Skull Cracking and drawing Chandra's Phoenix 4 times, no, usually if you can hit him with that much burn, you're going to win the game anyway. And if your Phoenix is really going to get answered, it's going to be with a Last Breath. It's going to be with a Detention Sphere. It's going to be with something that you're not even going to be able to return the Chandra's Phoenix. And I'd be playing Chandra's Phoenix even if it did not have that clause. If it was just a 2/2 flying haste for 3 mana, it would make the cut in this deck, because it provides an excellent attacker with Fire Fist Striker for Battalion. It attacks past a lot of decks where you can get that early damage in, but you just need that little bit of reach. And it can do upwards of 2, 4, 6, 8 damage in a single game, which is rare for cards in the red card pool right now. The curious card of them all, I think, is Young Pyromancer. It's yet to be determined whether it's good enough. The alternative is Gorehouse Chainwalker, and I'm not a fan of Gorehouse Chainwalker right now. It is not very well positioned. It's not a particularly sexy Magic card right now. It's just a 3 power 2 mana guy. And now, the deck needs some number of those. And I think if Rubblewelt Maka may indeed be the card to cut for Gorehouse Chainwalker, but I think Young Pyromancer offers something very, very intriguing that this deck lacks. It's one of the few sources of true card advantage that we have access to. It's an inherently powerful spell in that your opponent has to answer it immediately or prepare for the worst. And now, because we can't always follow through with that in making a bunch of elemental tokens, they're not going to ultimately be punished. But you better believe if they have a Doomblade and you're sitting there with a Fire Fist Striker and an Ash Zealot, they're going to Doomblade your Young Pyromancer, no matter what your deck composition is. Maybe if they had your deck list and knew that there were only 4 Lightning Strikes in the main, maybe they would just let it be. But the real power comes after sideboarding, because everything that we board in is an instant or a sorcery, and everything we board out is a creature, just by necessity. The Lightning Strikes are never getting boarded out, and everything else is a creature. So, Young Pyromancer goes from being a dirtily little 2-drop in the main deck to, after sideboarding, perhaps having as many as 8, 10, 12 instants or sorceries in the deck, and gives a very interesting amount of freedom to select your 60 from among your 75 based on the exact tools you want to have access to in each game. And because the main deck is such a efficient, it's just an efficient damage machine, that there are games where your opponent, they draw a couple of scry lands or a couple of shock lands, and they're on the back foot from the beginning. They've spotted you 4 damage, or 2 damage and a turn. And this deck punishes that more than any other I've played in this format. And I mean, I have access to every single deck in Standard right now, aside from Mono Black, and this is the deck that the only deck in the format right now where I find interesting. Go figure. As for the sideboard, we have Skullcracks and Searing Bloods, staples. We have Shock, another staple. Mizzium Mortars, another staple. Boros Reckoner is a staple of red deck sideboards right now. It shouldn't be, but it is good enough in the mirror match. It is absolutely game changing in the mirror match, but it is good enough there to warrant a couple of copies, especially given its random utility, or it's not really random utility, but its utility in some of the more difficult matchups. Something like Naya Hexproof, Boros Reckoner can come in and save a game. We also have Flames of the Firebrand. I just kind of have a crush on this card. It's so good. At least in my head, it's really good. In practice, it pretty much just kills a guy, nugs him from one. Sometimes it can kill two guys. Sometimes it kills a guy and nugs him for two, and sometimes it just is 3 to the face for 3 mana sorcery speed. But whatever, this deck just needs some extra reach, so it's being tried out right now. And Fated Conflagration is the perfect card to bring in against Esper. It answers Blood Baron of Vizkopa. It answers Archangel of Thune. It answers Jace. It answers Elspeth. It even answers Obsidat. This is the only card in red that for one card can answer Obsidat. You might not get to Scry, but god damn it, that son of a bitch will be dead. Anyway, this is the deck. If you pay attention in the videos during sideboarding, the exact configurations may be plus or minus 1 or 2 cards from this. It should be relatively consistent, although I recorded these videos over the course of a week, and the deck has evolved slightly over the course of that time. If you see any play mistakes, please do not be shy about sharing them. I am sharing these videos for my own practice. I want to perfect both the deck and my play of it in time for the Star City Open. And as someone who plays mostly Magic online, in fact, I played my first constructed tournament, my first paper Magic tournament in about 2 years, 3 years even, last night. And it was just a casual Thursday night Magic, and I struggled. Where online I feel like I have a pretty consistent. This deck has been going about 65% against the field. Let's see, it is mono red. It was 60. It was so over the first 35 matches, 60% against the field, and has since gone 7-4. Let's see, makes it 28, 18. It's going about 61% against the field right now, which I feel is good enough. I feel like it also could be better. Anyway, this is the deck, and there is about 3 or 4 hours of gameplay video following this. So please watch as much or as little as you'd like, and I would love to hear any suggestions you may have.